Good day, folks, and welcome back to the channel. And hey, look who's back. The Lowrider S is back in black. Yes, the bitch is back. Finally got it back from the dealership. And this ties into what I'm going to talk about today. Now, I have had so many people either leave comments or in my personal life tell me, you gotta sue. You should sue Harley Davidson. You should go after them. You know, get a lawyer. And I really debated doing this video because it's going to be a dry video. It's going to have a lot of legal stuff in it, so I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't want to watch it. That's fine. But I had so many people telling me this. I thought, these people do not know what that actually means to do that, what it all entails to go through this process. And that's why I'm here to talk about it. Now, you might say, why should we listen to you? What makes you an expert? Well, what I will say is that in my professional life, anyway, I have dealt and still do deal with an awful lot of lawyers. I dealt with a lot of judges. I have a very intimate knowledge of the judicial and justice system here. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, he's a cop. No, I'm not a police officer. And you shouldn't take what I say as legal advice either, because I am not regulated or licensed through the Law Society. So what I'm going to talk about is the processes that I would have to jump through. These aren't going to be the same as everybody else's because different countries, different jurisdictions are different. But I'm going to give you an overview. Some stuff may kind of transfer and be the same, some stuff not. But I felt like making this video because too many people talk about lawsuits and talk is cheap, and I really don't think they know what they have to go through. So I want you to sit back if you're going to watch this, grab yourself a beverage and relax because it's probably going to be a long one. Okay, so the first thing you're going to be wondering about is who's responsible. You're going to need to find out who is liable, who has liability. The reason you want to find this out is because you're going to have to bring an action against somebody, or if you want to bring an action against somebody, if you bring in the wrong person or the wrong entity, you will lose, you will have your matter dismissed, and it is quite possible you will be on the hook for not only your own legal costs, but the costs of the winning party as well. So you need to know who exactly you're going after. For my situation, the situation would be kind of hypothetical in that 2023 Lowrider S, brand new vehicle, doesn't shift correctly. They can't fix it, which actually Harley never did figure out actually what was wrong with it. They just changed out the transmission guts. But we're gonna say that, you know, they're not gonna give me my money back. The bike's still broke, they can't fix it. And quite frankly, if the transmission parts didn't fix it, it'd still be sitting there. And I can tell you that I dealt with both the dealership and the motor company and asked for my money back, and I was told no. They actually both pointed their fingers at each other, so neither one would take responsibility or liability. But for this video, we're gonna say it's a dealership because they're in the same jurisdiction as I am, and we might get to people outside of your jurisdiction a little later on. But the first thing for me, where I am, if we're talking about the easiest, cheapest route, would be going through the Financial and Consumer Affairs Authority. I actually have some notes if anybody sees me kind of looking off camera a little bit. But that's the first thing you're going to go through. Now, we do not have what's called a lemon law in Canada. People may debate me on that, but I'll put it up right now, and that's directly from the Department of Justice Canada's website. We do not have a lemon law. This is our consumer affairs that we can look at going through. Now, you can look at these guys to have a return of a vehicle. You can ask for a return of a vehicle. It could be a vehicle that needs repairs. This did need repairs, but as Harley pointed out to me, it's still in the diagnosis and repair stage. So I would be looking to get my vehicle returned. in that matter, you'd be looking at what's called a breach of substantial character. Basically what that is if there's a marked departure from how the vehicle operates that a reasonable person would expect it to. So for example, if the transmission doesn't work, if it doesn't shift correctly, that's a departure from the performance I, as a reasonable person, would expect. And then I can start looking at going after them. The first step I would have to do is it's basically a demand letter they would have you fill out. Now, in my opinion, demand letters, things of that nature, are completely worthless and a useless step, but they ask you to go through them, whether they're coming from a private citizen or a lawyer. I will tell you this, a lot of demand letters, whether they're sent by lawyers or whomever they're sent by, most of these letters are meant to either intimidate or bluff, okay? So really, a lot of times, even if they're sent from a lawyer, they're not worth the paper they're printed on. I can tell you that I have been subject to threats of lawsuits and court matters lots of times, quite a few times. And I've got letters from lawyers threatening, we're going to take you to court. And my answer is, okay, here's the address where you can serve me at. Because I'll put it to you this way, until I am personally or formally served with, a notice of application, a summons, a statement of claim that has been filed with the court with all the particulars set out on it and a possible court date, I don't even pay it any attention at all. Until I get served with those actual physically, formal court filed documents, I don't care. So that's where I'd leave it at that, because all those letters is talk, and talk is cheap, and the money's in the action. So anyway, you would send out this demand, getting back to where we were, you could send out that demand. Chances are they're going to either throw it in the garbage or send it to their legal department. Chances are you're not going to hear anything about it. And from there, you would proceed to basically a dispute resolution. You would sit down with the other party, with a facilitator or a mediator, and you would try and come to an agreement. But if you couldn't come to an agreement, you're still in the same spot you were, and it was all a waste of time. So would I go through the FCAA, dispute resolution? Probably not. There is another avenue, I guess you could take, that is through the Canadian Motor Vehicle Arbitration Plan, or CAMVAP. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. You would end up kind of going through the same route. It may end up in an arbitration that may be binding. Arbitrations are generally subject to judicial review, which means a judge or a court would look at them and make a ruling on them, whether they were in fact binding and processes were followed correctly. The problem with going through the CAMVAP system is that you have to be a participating manufacturer in that plan. And I will put up a list of the manufacturers who are part of it, at least in Canada, and that you can see there's no Harley Davidson on there. Wouldn't help in my situation. However, if you had a problem with a Honda car, or maybe even a Honda motorcycle, it might work. But in the end, it may not be the best avenue to go through, which would lead us to the next step, and that is court. All right, the first court process, small claims court, and it is exactly what it says. It is for small claims. They are generally have a set monetary limit. So for example, in Saskatchewan, it is $30,000 and under you can make a claim for. But the question for me is, do I have a claim? And generally, in my opinion, I probably do not. Because for things like vehicles, small claims a lot of times is going to be dealt with for repairs, things like that. So for example, you could take a matter into small claims to return a vehicle. Generally, the reason for returning the vehicle would be because it has a problem with it that you had to fix on your own and pay for, where you would be asking for the money for for the actual fix back and the money back for your vehicle. Not what I'm looking at here. I have a motorcycle that I can't use, but it is still under repair. It is under repair by warranty, so it's not costing me any money. The best situation I would have would be is if Harley Davidson said, geez, we can't fix it, take it to an independent dealer. I do that and say it costs me $10,000 to do that, and then Harley says we're not going to pay for that. That would be a situation for a small claims court. If I was looking at having to repair it myself and I want the value of this bike back, the repairs and the value for the motorcycle are going to be over $30,000, so it's going to be over that limit to begin with. Another situation could be I tell Harley, look, you guys can't fix it, give it back to me, I'll get someone else to fix it. I do that and I give Harley the bill and they say no, and I take them to court. Still not going to work because Harley was willing to do the work, even though they couldn't fix it. They're willing to do the work by warranty for nothing. You took it, you paid for it on your own, you made that decision, you're liable. So small claims to me does not look like it would be a viable option. So next we go to the big court. So now we go to the Court of King's Bench, and in Saskatchewan what that is it's our provincial superior court. It would be the same as if you were in the States, your state superior court. So the Superior Court of Michigan, whatever. That's basically what it is. Now you may want to look at getting a lawyer. Small claims court, a lot of people don't use lawyers. It's not that expensive. It'll cost you hundreds, not thousands. But of course now, if you need a lawyer, and I always advise you to get one because now you are suing for a lot of money, you should get a lawyer. And now of course we talk about money. And the one thing I will say about the legal systems in Canada and in the States, and I assume in a lot of other places, is that court actions are extremely expensive and extremely slow. It's going to take months, years, thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. Around here anyway, a decent lawyer is going to cost you hundreds of dollars an hour, I should say, and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars in a retainer. And if you're looking to start an action, a civil action in King's Bench Court here, you're going to have a lawyer drop your statement of claim with all your particulars, a notice of application, an affidavit. They're going to have to get all that served. You are looking at thousands of dollars just in paperwork preparation before you even set foot in a courtroom. Now, there are situations where you can serve this on people and they don't reply and they don't come to court, and I'm not going to get into all that because that's really getting into the weeds. You're getting into noting for default judgments. I won't talk about that. We'll just say dealership comes in. You would go to chambers is what it's called, which is basically like a docket court for your superior court. You would have your matter heard. It is very rarely, if ever, decided in the first hearing. It's usually several, so you keep coming back month after month after month, adjournment after adjournment after adjournment. If nothing gets settled, you end up being in a pretrial. So you have to find a date for pretrial. Now what pretrial is kind of like a mediation, except you don't have a mediator, you basically have a judge. Both parties will sit down with their lawyers and they will sit down with the judge and they will try to figure out an agreement. There are not court orders made here unless there is consent. So if both parties, if they both agree, okay, then you can make a minutes of settlement, you can get a court order, but it has to be by agreement. If neither side agrees, then neither side agrees and nothing happens, nothing gets done. If you want a date for a pretrial, around here anyway, you're probably looking at months. You might be waiting 6, 8, 9 months to get in to have a pretrial. If nothing is decided, if you come to no agreement, you proceed to the trial. Now, of course, that is going to be extremely expensive. Probably a 3 to 5 day trial. You're looking at, I don't know, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 at least, probably. And you'll probably be waiting, you might be waiting a year to get into the actual trial. And then you have to win. Usually, I shouldn't say usually, but a lot of times, the losing party will end up paying costs for the winning party. So if you lose, you're not getting your bike back. You've spent, probably 6 figures in legal fees, and you've got the other party's cost to deal with too. So there's a big downside to it. But let's say you win and you get everything you want. And now you've got this piece of paper in your hand, you've got your court order, your judgment, and you are good to go. You won, you did it, man, good for you. But now comes the question that I would say 99% of the people I talk to have no idea the answer to, and that is enforcement. Okay, so everything's gone great. You've won your case, you've got your judgment, you've got your court order, whatever it is, for X amount of thousands of dollars. What a lot of people don't understand is now the obligation's on you to get it. The court is not going to stroke you a check. The government is not going to stroke you a check. So the question becomes, you hand someone your court order and say, you owe me $30,000, and that person goes, up yours, come get it. So the question is, how do you get it? Like I said, you're not going to take them to court again because you've already been through court. Court has given you what you wanted. They're done with you. They have nothing else to do with it. So what do? A lot of people will say, well, I just go to the police. Well, the police aren't going to help you. They don't enforce money judgments. They'll tell you to go piss up a rope, and quite honestly, they're right to say it because that is not their job to collect your debt or debt for you. So the question is, where do you go when you are the one who has to get the money out of somebody who's not going to give it to you? And the answer is, at least here, is the sheriff's office. Now, a lot of people don't know, excuse me, that Saskatchewan has sheriffs, which we do. There's a lot of people in Canada don't know that Canada has sheriffs, but we do. But different jurisdictions, different provinces, sheriffs might do different things. Now, it even gets more complicated in Saskatchewan because we have 2 types of sheriffs. We have the provincial sheriffs and we have Court of Queen's Bench sheriffs. Provincial sheriffs look after court security, prisoner transport, that kind of thing. King's Bench sheriffs, I might have said Queen's Bench, I can't remember, but it's King's Bench now, the Queen is dead. But King's Bench sheriffs is who you want to talk to because they do the enforcement of money judgments. But it's not as easy as just walking into their office and handing them the judgment and saying, here you go, go get them. There's more legal paperwork to fill out, more forms. You might probably have a lawyer do that for you. And also there's going to be fees involved because the sheriff's office does not do it for free. Once you have all that set out, done, filed, the sheriffs can now go out and look at enforcing your court order. And they will do that through things like garnishments, bank account seizures of assets, property, land, vehicles. They have a number of different things they can do. And I'm not going to get into all the legal ramifications of that because, again, it's not as easy as just walking over to someone and just taking their car. So there's hoops to jump through there, and I'm not going to get into all that either. But that's your situation, and you hope that they can actually find whoever they're looking for or whatever they're looking for to get you the money. Now, that brings me to another issue here, and that is we've been looking at this through the lens of this person, dealership, company I'm going after for my Harley Davidson is in place I live, is in Saskatchewan, in this province. But what if they're not? What if I have to go against Harley Davidson in Harley Canada in Ontario? What if I have to go against Harley Davidson in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA? That's a lot different because there are numerous different suits that have come up and gone where you win a lawsuit here, this place isn't going to honor it. What you end up having to do in a situation like that is you need to take your court order and you need to get that court order registered with the court in that jurisdiction. So if I win in Saskatchewan, I need an Ontario court to register it and file it and open a file. And then I would have to get whoever enforces in Ontario, maybe it's the sheriffs there, then they have to enforce it for me in Saskatchewan. And it gets even dicier when you start looking at other countries, because, you know, Canada is one thing, but if you're going to have to start enforcing judgments made in Canada in other countries, it is not simple. Again, there's legal hoops to jump through, and it takes a while to do it. So, and to be quite honest with you, if let's say it was Milwaukee, I had to get it through, maybe possible that they just say, up yours, we're not doing it. And you spent all this time and money, you have a court order, you're entitled to your money, but they're just not going to honor it. So you could be out right there. So I guess the real glaring issue is, would I want to go, after everything I have said, would I want to go through all that shit for a $20-some thousand motorcycle? That's the question. Well, we've more or less come to the end. Now, obviously, there's things other people could do. They could go to the Court of Appeal. They could go all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. I could have gone more in depth with this even further, but we'd be here for hours, and I'm not going to do that. But that's basically what we're looking at. And I hope that by saying this, that people out there who say, well, just sue them, just get a lawyer. Not that easy, not that simple. It's a hell of a lot to go through. And quite frankly, dealerships, corporations, companies, manufacturers, they are in the driver's seat. You as the consumer, if you're a Joe Blow like me, you as the consumer are under the bus, because you are going to deal with a place that has a legal department with high-priced lawyers that specialize in this kind of thing, and they will bury you. They will make you look stupid. If you don't have a good enough lawyer, they will destroy you. Even if you have a good lawyer, they can destroy you. A lot of companies, and this is the same as in the States as in Canada, they will try and win by attrition. In other words, they will file motion after application, after paper, and they will just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and delaying, running up the legal fees that eventually you won't be able to pay for, and you'll just have to quit because you can't afford it anymore. A lot of companies will win it that way. So Canada-US justice system really comes down to, do you have the money? And the person with the most money, unfortunately, they can pay for the justice. That's just kind of the way it is. So you are not in the driver's seat as a customer. Basically, in a lot of situations, you're just going to have to bend over and take it up the ass, or you're going to have to hope that you're dealing with a very reputable place. But really, that's all I can really think of just offhand. I hope it helps. If you watched all the way through, hey, congratulations. But that's kind of the situation you're dealing with. It's probably a little bit dry to talk about. And I'm probably forgetting some stuff too that I'll remember once this video is done. But whatever, that's the general outline of it. I'm gonna stop taking up your time now. You guys get back to riding, and we will see you next time.